Hello everyone, this is Prashanth. In the last lecture, just I have completed revision topic on logical design of IoT. Logical design of IoT. Logical design of IoT. Under logical design of IoT, just we have IoT functional blocks, IoT communication models, and communication APIs. So these are the three topics under logical design of IoT. Different, just when you go for the communication API, compulsory we have some knowledge on communication models. So the communication models are publish subscribe communication model, request response communication model, push pull and exclusive pair communication model. So that means the process the data from the client and response received from the server only, but the different ways of the transmitting the data from the server and response also will receive in terms of some other formats. So that is the main concept of communication models. The communication is going on in between client and server with the help of intermediate person also, some brokers, queues, like that. So the communication API is also here we have two types of communication, that is REST API and WebSocket API. What are the main block diagram specifications and remaining advantages, disadvantages, some API constraints also we discussed in the last class. So now we move entering into the same topic on that particular WebSocket versus REST key differences and which one to use to develop the real-time IoT project. So that is the things here we have to know. So here WebSocket versus REST key, here differences in which one to use to develop the IoT project. That is our main agenda here. And whether you are connecting the client to the server, the microservices to one another, or parts of your application to external devices, you are almost spoiled for choice. It comes to communication methods. These are the through to that stand WebSocket and REST. So here, even though select of one core technologies for your application is a series of serious responsibility, choosing between the WebSocket and REST is relatively straightforward thanks to their different architectural choice, performance characteristics and implementation considerations. That means each lends itself to solving problem where other might struggle. So this is the REST versus WebSocket diagram. Just we need to know key differences and which one to use. So here REST versus WebSocket, here some similarity. A refresher on what REST and WebSocket are there. Their technical trade-offs and including WebSocket versus REST performance. And you should know how to use the REST when the WebSocket is better choice. And some of gaps you will need to plug if you are work either protocol or different protocol. So in summary, it deals the easily scalable infrastructure for stateless crude operation of, and you want to stick with standard web tooling. For example, if you are building an API to post updates the social network, and WebSocket is the right choice when you need to real time bidirectional low latency communication between the client and server. So for example, you are building to chat application. So these are the two main applications and why we are using REST API for some application like building an open API to post update the social network. Why we are using WebSocket to develop some application like building a chat application like that. So these are the some summary points regarding REST API and WebSocket API. So next, what is REST and REST key characteristic? What is the REST stands for representational state transfer, as we discussed in the last lecture also. It is a set of principles that define one way to build APIs over the HTTP command. So that is the initial thing. It's easy to overlook but REST is not a protocol, which means you have to great deal of flexibility to mold it your needs. And its popularity is largely due to its simplicity and the fact that it reuse the methods and technologies already used for the web, and that largely defines the use of use cases where it does well, and those we are where you will need to find and alternate the things. So this is the what is REST, just introduction points. Here client and REST API, this is the server. So here HTTP command, just we use get, put, post, delete HTTP commands to send the information from the client. By using REST API, just we request and the response from the server. The response in the terms of JSON or XML or special characters, whatever the formats available within that, just it can receive the response from that format. So this is the what REST apart from the other approaches here. And key characteristics of REST: stateless, fluid, and payload format, cacheable and synchronous. Here what is stateless? Each request made to a request API is independent and self-contained. That's makes scaling much more straightforward. When traffic increases, you need add more servers behind the load balancer, as they need to a particular client to the connect to the same server on each time. So this is the stateless, when the just we can mode server on the based on the traffic will increase. So next, create. So each request response uses the HTTP standard HTTP verbs, that is the get, post, put, delete, and patch, which have lineups which create, read, update, delete operations. It will the help of these three. And payload format. REST typically uses standardized message formats like JSON or XML for a data exchange, but you can use whatever format of data you like, so long as set of the correct content type header. Cacheable. You can choose allow clients intermediate infrastructure to catch a response that helps scaling and response time. Synchronous. The HTTP request response cycle that REST relays on its best suited for short-lived straightforward transmission. So these are the some key characteristics of REST. And what is WebSocket? So here while REST works on the short-lived stateless communication, WebSocket provides an ongoing low latency two-way communication channel, and that means you can interact with the WebSockets is different. So rather than building a WebSocket API as such specific endpoints, you open your connection and both sides can exchange messages when they are needed. This makes too ideal for real-time applications also, such that chat and live streaming, sports for financial data, and interactive real-time collaboration environment like Figma, Micro, and Google Docs. So this is the WebSocket diagram here. Just initial HTTP handshake, WebSocket full duplex presentation, persistent client and server. So this is just ideal view of WebSocket communication API. And some key characteristics of WebSocket here: persistent connection, stateful, full duplex communication, payload format, and real time. So here persistent connection is nothing but each REST request requires a fresh HTTP connection, that we know, which increases latency due to the overhead of the HTTP handshake. WebSocket opens a connection once the key keeps it open for also long as you need it, reducing the time it takes to send a message. So that is the first two characteristics, that is persistent connection. Next, stateful. WebSocket persistent connection means that the client and server can keep track of what happened previously, rather than having to use cookies to track the state with the REST. That is the stateful. And next, full duplex communication. Both the client and the server can send the data whenever they need, and at the same time. In REST, the only client can initiate the new connection. So that is the difference of WebSocket and REST. So it maintains full duplex communication. At a time, the client and server can do the operation. And payload format. WebSocket works with discrete messages such as JSON object or a profitable message. That's in contrast with the streaming media format and send a constant flow of bytes. And in real time, WebSocket minimizes the latency whenever is possible. A persistent connection helps, as do small headers as like 2 bytes. So these are the some WebSocket key characteristics of WebSocket. Next, versus WebSocket versus at a glance here. Different ways of connecting client to server. So our agenda is client in order to make the connection between client and server in different ways. So here different ways here in terms of communication model, in terms of stateful, in terms of scalability, in terms of data format, in terms of overhead and use cases. So for REST and WebSocket, this is the future, is nothing but way of communication, nothing but future here. Communication model, request response communication model, it follows, and exclusive event based or exclusive pair communication model. Exclusive pair communication model. Statefulness, nothing but stateless and stateful for WebSocket API. And scalability, easy to scale the data and more complex to scale the data. And binary or context data format, it is binary or context, that is okay. Next, in terms of overhead, higher has as each interaction requires a new connection. It is lower after and initial handshake of the network. So crude APIs, stateless transfer of discrete units of data, real-time collaboration, chart, data broadcast, ongoing transfer of the data. So these are the different way of connecting client and server in terms of communication model, stateful of the device, scalability, data formats, overhead and use cases. Next, should I use WebSocket or REST? So this is the question mark for everyone. For me also, technical depends on our application. Just we use which API is suitable for developing of my project, whether WebSocket or RESTful. Depends on the features of each and every WebSocket or RESTful. Just I use for either WebSocket is suitable or RESTful is suitable for us. So here technical capabilities are good to know when considering the differences between the WebSocket and the REST. So but these things get really interesting when we look at the use cases. So that is the first one. And the question of whether you should choose WebSocket or REST comes down entirely to the problems that you want to solve, and the likelihood is that you will upon the some mix of the two ways. So here let's take a mobile banking application for example. The bulk of its client server communication, such as making a payment, is best suited to REST API. So that is the third one. And this fourth one, the pay details, payment out amount and associated data fit the request to response model quietly, very neatly. So that is the fourth point. But let's say you also wanted to add live customer service chat to the banking app. Further functionality, only WebSocket would be the same. So WebSocket application, just in order to develop chat like social media chat messages like that. So the persistent stateful connection and low latency delivery make it good for match for interactive real-time communication. So entirely depends on the application, either bank application or government application or very industry application, whatever. Depends on the application. Just we may choose either maybe REST API, REST or WebSocket application to develop that particular web application. So these are the some specifications which WebSocket or REST is useful to develop the IoT applications. So these are the some technical capabilities. Request for it is way problem, depends on the problem, and example banking applications, and this to live customer services and persistent stateful the depends on the latency delivery matter. So these are the things, just which one you use to develop the IoT project. And these are the some use cases, very important use cases between the REST and WebSocket. So here in terms of chart, in terms of online gaming, data updates, real-time collaboration and service integration. So these are the some use cases, very important to know. And in terms of REST and in terms of WebSocket, what will happen in terms of chart, inefficient as would require either frequent manual polling or a work around such as long polling. So that is the under the REST. So coming to the WebSocket, persistent two-way connection with low latency suit WebSocket well to chat. So just it maintain low latency delivery matter and full duplex communication it maintain. So in terms of online gaming, not suitable as the overhead of multiple request to response cycles, which will add to the much latency. So that is a better match for real-time updates across multiple players participating in the online gaming. So that is the very suitable for online gaming. And data updates, suitable for infrequent updates where immediate data refresh is not easy critical. But coming to WebSocket, it is well suited to dashboards, sports data and financial data where updates are time sensitive. That is the in terms of data updates. And real-time collaboration, non-practical as latency too high, REST lacks way for the server to initiate message transfer without workarounds. Instant synchronization in both direction means changes from all the participants shared at the same time. Next, service integration. In terms of service integration, well suited to integrating third-party services based on that around stateless interaction such as the payment processing. Unlikely to be a good fit as there is less need for persistent connection. So these are the some use cases very important to know under WebSocket versus REST API. In terms of chart, online gaming, data updates, real-time collaboration and service integration. The under WebSocket key differences between which one to use. And can a REST API use WebSocket? So that is the one of the question also here. REST flexibility means that you can choose precisely how to implement your REST API. For example, HTTP latency compared to other protocols might fluctuate to you. And the Swagger Socket open source project try to just to do that. REST API and HTTP go together well because they are both designed around the request response model. And WebSocket stateless event based model means it's not a one-to-one replacement. If the problem you want to solve call for REST, then use the REST. So this is the can REST API use the WebSocket? Just it is in, WebSocket in terms of REST API following the depends on the some applications like that you can assume in your mind. And options for building REST and WebSocket infrastructure here. Choosing between WebSocket and REST is really just for first step. Keep in mind neither of them tells us how much about the infrastructure you will need to run them. The next, for REST, building scalable HTTP backends is pretty much a solved problem, but that's not case for WebSocket. Persistent stateful connections increase the load on the server and complicate scaling. There is a broad variety of libraries, framework and hosted services available to simply building manage your applications backend. So they tend to fall into 4 categories. So these are the some options for building REST and WebSocket infrastructure. It is infrastructure is most successful, most important point in order to develop for option for building REST and WebSocket infrastructure. So here these are the 4 categories here. Host your own backend, use a specialized hosted service, and use a backend as a service BAS, and use a real-time platform as a service PAS. So under host your own backend, we have again three types here. Pure WebSocket libraries I use. Fully featured message libraries use a framework. The last thing, I use a framework. It is Spring Boot for Java. Also support for WebSocket natively. So what is host your web owned backend? Although you are talking on additional DevOps, but then you can host your own WebSocket backend with one of the following methods. Most languages have an official or semi-official implementation of the WebSocket protocol. So for example, WS for Node.js, they give you low-level WebSocket functionality that can be good for if you want to just lightweight implementation, or you really need to create the custom solution. So that is the pure WebSocket libraries. And fully featured messaging library, one level higher are messaging libraries like Signal IR for .NET, or Socket IO for Node.js. That is the second one. And use a framework. Spring Boot for Java also support WebSocket natively. That is the third one. So these are the three under host your own backend. Use a specialized hosted service. So here depends on your use case. You might have a software as a service. Yes, SaaS. Offers a specialized WebSocket backend. For example, Chart SaaS APIs are common. However, you will need to be comfortable with the design choice vendor making. And use a backend as a service here. Platform including Firebase, Supabase offer limited real-time functionality. Build on top of WebSocket. However, scalability, message guarantees are often taken. So this is the third one. The last one, use a real-time platform as a service. With the help of platform, just we can develop that particular things for applications where reliability, data integrity, scalability are important. You should consider using dedicated real-time platform as a service. So these are the four cases under the building and managing your applications backend. Host your own backend, use a specialized hosted service, use a backend as a service, and use a platform as a service. Your application can take some advantage here. A global edge network, not only WebSocket, resilient delivery, and 99.99% uptime, scale to meet demand, great developer experience whatever you tech stack. So these are the some advantages of the your application. A global edge network is nothing but whenever your app user are in the world, a apply edge locations ensure less than 65 ms latency right occurs our network. Not only WebSocket, apply select the right protocol for your applications needs and network conditions, choosing from options as WebSocket, server sent, server MQTT, like that. Resilient delivery guarantees that messages are on the board time. 99.9% your application keeps on delivering. Scale and demand, as demand grows, scale from thousands of billions of messages. The last one, great developer experience whatever you tech stack with SDKs for more 25 languages and framework integration with common tooling and industry leading documentation. It gives the tools to become productivity quickly. So these are some advantages of the my application. So this is the reference and test book. Some I referred for some SCI Scopus papers also for this lecture. So the remaining continue with the next lecture. Thank you. So these are the some which WebSocket versus REST key differences, and which one to use. Either depends on our application. Just I use either REST API or WebSocket API. For example, I want to develop one chat box. So for that, I use for a WebSocket API only. So depends on the application or depends on the future. Just we may use either REST API or WebSocket API. Remaining continue with the next lecture. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.